Welcome back to the show, everybody. We have Geoff Calkins on the line right now. First, we're going to go to our trivia question. The Grizzlies, Sully, ranked second in the league in the NBA for fewest points per game allowed during the regular season over the last 3 years prior to 2015. How many times did the Grizzlies finish in the top 5? And the answer is, I said 2 also, and we were both wrong. Ben Sugimoto. He's starting to beat us now, Sully. I don't like it.
That tells you something about this Memphis team, how dangerous and legit they are. Maybe Geoff Calkins can illuminate us a little bit.
Yeah, and right now we'll bring in Geoff Calkins, who is a native of Hamburg, by the way. Former lawyer, now columnist for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis. And instead he left the law to Sully pursue the riches of journalism.
Yeah.
Geoff, how's it going?
This is the zenith of my career to be back on in Buffalo when you guys have Mike Babcock to talk about and Tom Brady to talk about. To be able to be on in Buffalo, I've now reached the pinnacle.
That's opinion shared by many of our guests about the Bucky show.
Actually, I was going to say you actually need to change your standards. Hey, listen, how about the Grizzlies, though? It's interesting. You know, among many people, I looked at the series going in. I said, well, the Warriors are just going to cruise right into the conference finals and, you know, they'll probably play the Clippers. And so far, the Grizzlies have done a great job. I mean, they're shutting down the Splash Brothers, and they're up 2-1 in the series.
Yeah, it's been astounding, honestly. But on top of it, you had Mike Conley, the point guard for the Grizzlies, had a broken face, literally multiple fractures in his face, and didn't play in Game 1. Totally unclear if he would play in Game 2. And for them to come out and take a 2-1 lead over a 67-win Warriors team, I think I had Warriors in 5. It just, that team looked too good, and the Grizzlies were struggling. But it's been remarkable. I mean, they held them each of the last 2 games. They held them to 39 points in the first half. Well, throughout the entire regular season, Golden State had scored fewer than 40 points in the first half twice, and now the Grizzlies have done it consecutively. So it's been really a remarkable performance, and it'll be interesting to see whether you can sustain it when you've got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on the other side.
He wrote today in a very good column, Geoff, that they're legitimately angry at the way they're perceived around the league. I imagine that's really fueling what they're doing there, and they're going to continue to ride that because, as you wrote today, they're a 5-point underdog at home tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. People ask me sometimes now that I live down here in Memphis. They wonder if I'm, as a Southerner now, if I feel like a fish out of water, having grown up in Buffalo, and I tell them, you know what? The cities are, despite the surface differences, really very similar. They have that sort of underdog, everyone's out to get us mentality, and this particular Grizzlies team, with a bunch of players who were, Zach Randolph was cast off by Portland and cast off by the Knicks and cast off by the Clippers, and Tony Allen was just sort of a guy in Boston, and Marc Gasol was the fat younger brother of Pau, and Mike Conley was the booby prize in the Kevin Durant draft. And so you have this team that is a bunch of sort of odds and ends, and compared to the Golden Boys of Golden State, and they really do. I mean, they are one of 2 teams in the Western Conference that has been in the playoffs the last 5 years. The other being San Antonio. That's it. And yet they are sort of dismissed by everybody. And there's no question they use that. It may be cliche, and it may be the kind of things people roll their eyes at. Everybody thinks everybody's out to get them all the time, but they harness that chip on their shoulder, and they've used it, to help fuel what they're doing to Golden State.
When you look at Conley and Allen, they're the 2 guys that have done the most work defensively on Thompson and Steph Curry. And if I'm not mistaken, they're undefeated in the playoffs when Conley's
They have not lost a game when Mike Conley has played.
And did I see him take a charge with a broken face the other day?
Yes, you did. It's really, he stepped in and he took a charge. I think it was Barbosa who ran him over. He's a guy who, he really was. It was the Oden Durant draft, and then Al Horford went 3rd. The Grizzlies had the worst record in the league that year, and it then ended up with the 4th pick. Tanking didn't work as well as it did for the Sabres, and so they ended up with this little itty bitty Greg Oden's sidekick, and he has emerged as clearly one of the better point guards in the NBA, and that performance that he's put on with multiple fractures in his face, a titanium plate in his face, taking charges, and really lifting this team to 2 wins it's the stuff of Willis Reed. If it were that was in a Game 7, obviously, with Willis Reed. But Willis Reed only scored 4 points in that game.
That's right.
Mike Conley came back with a broken face and I think scored 23 in Game 2, and helped harness Steph Curry in Game 3. It's been tremendous.
Geoff, the Game 2 and 3 are virtually identical statistically. The numbers shooting from the field, from 3, 39 points in the first half. Why? So it doesn't seem like a fluke. Why couldn't they continue to do this, and have they figured them out, the Splash Brothers?
Well, it is amazing. I mean, after Game 2, the Warriors' refrain was, hey, we're not going to go 6 from 26 from 3 ever again. And literally they went 6 from 26 the next in Game 3. So I think, Jerry, the key is it really so much of what the Grizzlies have done depends on Golden State not playing like Golden State being rattled. I mean, Golden State was missing free throws. They were 4 of 18 on what are described as wide open threes in Game 3. Well, they're not wide open if Tony Allen is marauding through your head when you're taking them. And yes, they were technically open, but the Grizzlies have very clearly rattled them. Steph Curry's shooting up air balls. His teammates after Game 3, he always just goes to the hotel after a game. His teammates said, Steph, you got to come out, you got to have some ribs here on Beale Street to sort of stop thinking about basketball. They are rattled. And the question is, and I think a lot of it depends on them being rattled. And can the Grizzlies continue, can you be rattled for 4 straight games or 4 games in a series? It has been emotionally draining for the Grizzlies to really beat the superior team 2 games in 2 straight games. And I think it depends on that kind of fever pitch. And on Golden State continuing to underperform in the face of Tony Allen's craziness for 2 more wins.
But you know what? It goes back to the respect card. It really does. I mean, this isn't the Warriors. What you're saying, this isn't the Warriors just playing poorly. The other team's getting paid too.
Oh, no, there's no question. I mean, people who say it's just the Warriors missing shots are totally missing it. That's like saying that, I made this point, that's like saying that in the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning was just missing passes against no, it's the Seattle defense had a lot to do with it. And when Manny Pacquiao can't, land a punch, it's because Floyd Mayweather has a lot to do with it.
He's pretty good defensively, right.
The Grizzlies a year ago did the same thing to Kevin Durant. Now, they ended up winning the series in 7. Zach Randolph was suspended for Game 7. But the Oklahoma City paper had a huge headline calling Kevin Durant Mr. Unreliable because of what Tony Allen did to him. So the Grizzlies have done this before. They knocked off San Antonio as an 8th seed. It's sort of who they are. Now, are they good enough to sustain it to win a title? That's a stretch. Whether they just have enough talent. But can they scare the hell out of a team or knock off a team? And there's no question they've done it before.
Excellent. Geoff, fine work. Thanks for coming on the show. Have fun covering the series. We'll be watching
really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. We'll catch up again. All right.
Thanks,
Geoff.
See you.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dip into the NHL. So stay with us here on the Bucky and Sully Show.